All right, today it's a lot of definitions. Yikes. And a lot of basic things that you're just going to have to look at and recall. It's a little bit of computation, a little bit of analytical geometry, but not too much. So start with our first definition, array. Array is similar to a line, but it has one distinct endpoint, and it goes on in the other direction forever and ever and ever. So it's not really a line, it's a part of a line with one distinct endpoint. Remember, a line is a series of points that goes on and on and on forever and ever in either direction. This one, a ray, stops. And we need this ray because we're starting off with angles. And the reason we need a ray is to form an angle. What you have is you have two rays with a common vertex. So they share a vertex. Here in this angle we have ray yx and ray yz, and they share this common vertex right here at y. They share a common point. And where that common point is the vertex of the angle. That's the pointy part in the middle. What you also need to know is when I start using naming the rays and the angles. To name an angle, you start off at one point on the outside, go to the vertex, and then come to the other side. So this angle could be named angle XYZ. We could also be going the other direction, angle ZYX. But notice what's the same about both of them. The Y is in the middle. No, the letter that's at the vertex is always in the middle of the. It's always in the middle. All right. So now we're going to talk about some specific kinds of angles. Complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles. So only two. Or two angles that add to 90 degrees. Can't have three angles, only two. There I give you a combination of 30 and 60. Could be 45 and 45, could be 27 and 58. Any two angles that their number of degrees add to 90. The next one, supplementary, very similar. It's once again two angles, but in this case they add to 180 degrees. So supplementary, two angles that add to 180 degrees. Oh yeah, I'm sure so. So complementary add to 90, supplementary add to 180. They're in the other cabinet. Go ahead and open the door. They're down. Down on the bottom with the books. Okay. All right. Adjacent angles. Two angles are adjacent if they have a common ray. So if you look at angles 1 and 2, they have this ray right here in the middle that is part of both angles. That ray right there is part of both angle 1 and angle 2. So adjacent angles are angles that have a common ray. So adjacent means to be next to, correct? Right now I'm adjacent to Brittany. Congruent angles. Congruent angles, they are two or more angles that have the same angle measure. So the measure of their angles, which is a number, is equal. However, because an angle is a shape, we say that they are congruent. And the symbol for congruent looks like this. It's an equal sign with a tilde mark above it. So shapes are congruent, numbers are equal. So if we cannot talk about angles being equal, but we can say that their measures are equal. Now we're going to get into some lines that have properties for angles. Perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines are intersecting lines that form 90-degree angles at their intersection. Perpendicular lines are intersecting lines that form 90-degree angles at point of intersection. So if you're looking at two lines, if they're perpendicular and you're given that one angle is 90, so you know they're perpendicular, then all four angles around the other three surrounding it are also 90 degrees. Vertical angles are angles that form when two lines intersect and they're like diagonal from each other. So in this example, 2 is vertical from 4 and 1 and 3 are vertical. And the thing about vertical angles, they are congruent. Always congruent. It's very useful when we get into finding missing angles for parallel lines and things of that nature. Bisector of an angle. To bisect something means to cut in half. So the bisector of an angle is a ray that cuts an angle into two equal parts. So the angle measure is cut into two equal amounts of degrees. So when we talk about an angle bisector, if you are told that an angle is bisected, that means you have two equal measured angles then. So if I told you that this entire angle BAC was 30 degrees, and then I told you that ray AD was the angle bisector, you could say, okay, ABD and DAC are both 15 degrees. You can automatically just divide it into two. Alright, now we're going to put it all together, all those rules together, and try and figure out some problems. Here's where the analytical geometry starts. The larger of two supplementary angles measures 40 degrees more than the smaller one. Find the measure of each angle. Alright, so as I look at this, two supplementary angles. That means they're going to add to 180 degrees. The larger of two measures 40 more than the smaller. Well, we don't know anything about the smaller angle, so we'll call it x. What do we know about the larger angle? It's 40 degrees more, right? So it's whatever x is plus 40 more. I can now solve this. I can add my like terms. X plus x is 2x plus 40 equals 180. Subtract 40. 2x equals 140. Divide by 2. So the smaller angle is 70 degrees. So the larger angle is 40 more than that. 70 plus 40 is 110 degrees. So the larger angle is 110. And those two, 70 plus 110, is indeed 180 degrees. So that problem is correct. Okay, this really gets a little more complicated, but when I approach a problem like this, I want to label all the information I know as I get it. In the figure, line AD and CB intersect at Q. So this line here and this line here intersect at Q. EF, this line bisects angle AQC. So AQC, this line bisects it. That means that this part angle and this angle, they're congruent to one another because it's bisected. So you notice how I fill that in right away? Because it's bisected, I know it breaks it into two equal parts. The measure of AQE is 40 degrees. AQE. So this is 40 degrees right here. Well, if that one's 40, what's CQE? If this side is 40, what's that side? Yeah, it's 40, right. Which means the entire angle all the way across is 80 degrees. That entire angle is 80 degrees, two of them together. Find the measure of angle BQD. BQD. So this entire part right here. How'd you get 80? Yes, you're correct. Yep. And these are vertical angles, right? Right. So the measure of angle BQD equals 80 degrees because it's vertical to AQC, which we figured out was 80 degrees also. If the measure of angle A equals 20 degrees, and the measure of angle B equals 60 degrees, and the measure of angle C equals 100 degrees, are A, B, and C supplementary angles? Yes or no? What's the prerequisite to be supplemental? Do you have two angles that add to 180 degrees? How many angles are there? There's three angles that, and they add to 180. But this is, yeah, this is, no, there are three angles. And in order to be supplementary, it can only be two. Are angles 1 and 2 right here, are those adjacent angles? Do they share a common ray? Yes or no? Are they next to each other? They're adjacent. No, right, Brittany? No. If they don't have a common ray. If 2 would have to be here, or 1 would have to be here in order for them to share a ray. But there's not. There's this space in between here. They are not adjacent to one another. In the figure, AD is perpendicular to CF. So AD perpendicular to CF, yeah, we got that. We have the box in here, so we know this is 90 degrees. And the measure of angle FGE and BGC are vertical angles. So I know FGE is congruent to BGC. BGC. Because they're vertical angles. So if this BGC is 30, what's FGE? 30, right. They're congruent. Where's the question? Where's the question? I don't even... Oh, this one down here? Yes, that's also 90 degrees. You're right. Yeah, because it's vertical, or, you know, all four of them together. All right, let me find the... Okay, so what's AGB? Angle AGB. So AGB is this angle right here. What's that angle right there? Well, this one's 30. Well, this is 30 right here. These are vertical. What you need to look at is, what are these two together? Is that a right angle right there? So together, this 30 and this one has to equal 90. So they're complementary. 60 degrees. So that's 60. So the measure of angle AGB. Yep, so that one's 60, which means this one is... That one's also 60 because these two are vertical angles, or you could say that these are complementary. These two are complementary. That's 90 degrees right there. And then that was the other question. Find the measure of... No, we already found that. EGF, which we found already. The measure of angle EGF is 30 degrees. That was the big one. All right. 198, 199, 1 to 22 all.